It's gone, disappeared without a trace. My bag, with my passport inside, is nowhere to be found. Frantically searching, I felt the disapproving gaze of my mother-in-law, Olivia, accompanied by a sardonic smile. "You brought this upon yourself," she sneered. "A foolish wife like you, struck by divine retribution. We're leaving for America soon. Consider this our farewell." Her laughter echoed mockingly through the room. In that moment, I realized my mistake in trusting Olivia with my belongings. Her betrayal plunged me into a sense of helplessness. I am Madison, 30 years old, married to Mark for 3 years. Though we haven't yet started a family, we've built a happy life in a town near Mark's parents' home. Even after marriage, I juggled the responsibilities of a career and household, striving to balance both with dedication. It had been 5 years since my father-in-law passed away. Olivia, living alone now, frequently visited our house to criticize my housekeeping, which had become a significant source of stress. "Why don't you quit your job as a working mother? Your work isn't that important anyway. You can't manage properly, and your housekeeping is mediocre. Mark deserves better support," she would often say, running a finger along our floors. "There's so much dust here, it's disgusting," she'd add with a dramatic sigh. I'll admit I'm not the best at housework, but being accused of neglecting dusting felt unjust. I cleaned diligently every morning before work and cooked with our health in mind. Yet Olivia seemed to say whatever she pleased. Belittling me seemed to be her way of relieving stress. Every day became a struggle. Then, out of the blue, Olivia proposed a family trip, inviting us and Mark's sister's family along. Emma, my sister-in-law, was as mild-mannered as Mark, and we often enjoyed each other's company at our homes. However, the thought of traveling with Olivia made me uneasy. I had often confided in Mark about Olivia's cutting remarks, so when I expressed my reservations about the trip, he offered an optimistic perspective. "Mom wants to join us. Maybe she's trying to create positive memories with you. It could be a chance to bridge the gap and build a more open relationship," Mark suggested with a hopeful smile. "You're right, it's our first trip together. Perhaps we'll make wonderful memories and break down barriers," I agreed, buoyed by Mark's encouragement. Olivia took charge of all the planning, from choosing the destination to mapping out the itinerary, leaving us to fit our schedules around hers. "I wonder where Mom has in mind. Hopefully, it's not too pricey," Mark remarked casually. She mentioned Australia in her email. I sighed, my apprehensions confirmed. Olivia had picked an extravagant international destination without considering our financial circumstances. "Well, we can't change it now. Mom picked it, so let's go along with her choice this time," Mark reasoned. Understanding his sentiment, I managed to finance the trip from our savings. Mark, Emma's husband, and I synchronized our vacations with the trip, and soon we were ready to depart. We safely arrived in Australia on the scheduled day. Time flew as we immersed ourselves in the breathtaking natural landscapes and savored delicious cuisine. Before we knew it, it was time to head back home. "It was such an amazing trip. I even got quite a tan," Olivia exclaimed cheerfully, still enthusiastic even at the airport. "Yes, it was truly fantastic and enjoyable," I replied, trying to match her excitement. However, I couldn't shake a lingering disappointment. "What's bothering you? You seem a bit down," Mark asked, noticing my expression. "Well, it's not a big deal, but I didn't get to connect with your mom as much as I had hoped. We hardly had a chance to talk privately during the trip," I confessed. Mark placed a comforting hand on my shoulder and reassured me, "Don't dwell on it too much. We all had a great time together, and that's what counts." His reassuring smile eased my concerns. Thinking I might be overthinking things, I followed the group. "It's quite crowded here. I need to use the restroom before we board," Olivia announced, turning to me. "Madison, could you hold my bags for me? Everyone, leave your bags with her, and let's go together." She handed me her heavy luggage and hurried off. "I actually need to use the restroom too," Emma apologized, noticing my situation. "I'll take over once I'm back. Just wait here for me." Shortly after they departed, Olivia returned alone. "That was quick," I remarked, surprised. "It was empty. Now, where did you put my bags?" She scanned the area. "Oh, they're right over there." I pointed to her luggage by her feet. "Why is my expensive bag on the floor? I gave it to you so it wouldn't be set down." "How could you be so careless?" She retrieved it and held it protectively, though it was cumbersome, especially since I was still holding everyone else's bags as well. Olivia interrupted sharply. "Enough. You're so thoughtless. Why don't you go to the restroom as well? I'll graciously keep an eye on your bags. Just leave them on the floor. Your inexpensive bag will be fine, she stated arrogantly. Thank you. I'll be quick, I replied, placing my bag on the ground and heading towards the restroom. To my dismay, there was a long line when I arrived. Emma emerged shortly after. What about the bags, Madison? She asked anxiously. I left them with Mark's mom so I could use the restroom, but it's really crowded in there. This might take a while, I explained, feeling uncertain despite Olivia's assurance that it was empty. After what felt like an eternity, I finally returned. Emma was waiting for me. I didn't want to risk getting lost, so I waited for you, she said, empathizing with my predicament as she often struggled with directions. When we returned to where we left Olivia, she stood alone, and the men were nowhere in sight. Thanks for keeping an eye on the bags, I said, scanning the area. Strangely, my bag was nowhere to be found. I'm certain I left it right here. I checked all the bags, but mine is the only one missing, I exclaimed anxiously. My bag's gone. You were here the whole time, right? I turned to Olivia, my voice trembling with panic. Your bag? I don't know. Maybe it was never here, Olivia responded coldly, sending a wave of despair through me. No, I know I left it here, right in front of you, I insisted, feeling a sense of betrayal. I didn't see anything. Don't blame me, Olivia retorted dismissively. I placed it there because you asked me to. What should I do? My passport was in that bag. I cried out in distress, my mind racing. Olivia sneered at me, her smile dripping with sarcasm. Maybe this is karma for how you treated my bag, tossing it on the floor. A lousy wife like you deserves to suffer the consequences and stay behind in America. I don't have time to deal with this. You're on your own. We're leaving without you, she declared callously. Goodbye, Olivia laughed mockingly, filling me with anger at her callous words. This wasn't just my problem. My bag held everyone's passports. Without it, none of us could return to America. Olivia's expression froze in disbelief. What? Why do you have everyone's passports? She grabbed my arm, her voice rising in alarm. Emma, who had been listening intently, stepped in to clarify. We were concerned about losing them with all the luggage, so Mark took charge of them. You might have forgotten because you were busy, Mom, Emma explained gently. Olivia reacted sharply. Is that so? I must have been distracted and forgot. But why were the passports with you and not Mark? That's odd, she accused, her tone accusatory. Mark had too much to carry, so I've been holding on to them since we left the hotel, I explained calmly. Olivia's temples pulsed visibly as she exclaimed, Why didn't you mention something so important? I had no idea your bag contained everyone's passports. I would have kept a closer watch if I had known. I struggled to believe her words. What do you mean? You took your eyes off my bag earlier. If you didn't know about the passports, was my bag stolen? Emma, looking pale and alarmed, confronted Olivia. Mom, please explain. Was Madison's bag really stolen? I have no idea if it was stolen. It was simply gone when I noticed, Olivia retorted coldly, stating with her arms crossed, unapologetic. I can't believe this. It's so irresponsible. Just then, Mark and the others returned, noticing our distressed expressions. What's wrong? Is everything okay? Mark asked, his concern evident. I quickly recounted the situation, and Mark sighed deeply, casting a disappointed glance at Olivia. This is serious. We need to search for the bag immediately. Mark and I shared a confirming glance. I left it right here, Olivia. You specifically asked me to place it here. I gestured towards the corner where all our luggage had been placed. It only took us about 15 minutes to return from the restroom. It must have been taken during that brief window. Olivia, where were you? I asked, noticing her arms crossed defensively. I was right here the whole time, keeping an eye on the bags, Olivia replied firmly. I wouldn't have wandered off, especially with everyone's important luggage. But your bag was on the edge, out of my direct line of sight. I'm only human. I can't be perfect, Olivia said, turning away. Let's file a theft report and check the surveillance cameras. The thief might still be nearby. We should act fast. Mark began to approach airport personnel, but Olivia grabbed his arm. Hold on a moment. Filing a theft report seems extreme. It would be more practical and faster to get the passports reissued, Mark said, shaking off her grip. We'll still need a police report for passport security, then we can proceed to reissue them at the embassy. Checking the surveillance footage could also help us recover the bag, Emma interjected, aligning with Mark's plan. That's right, Mark. We should move quickly, Olivia countered defensively. This is all her fault. She should take charge of finding the thief herself. Police involvement is unnecessary when she can handle it. She grew increasingly furious, launching into a tirade. Emma swiftly interjected, That's not fair. Madison didn't cause this. Mom, you should admit you didn't watch the bags properly. Don't blame her. Emma spoke up on my behalf, voicing what I had wanted to say to Olivia. Mark, showing his support, placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. Madison won't be searching alone, Mom. Why are you so against filing a theft report? Olivia appeared unsettled. It's not that. I've never dealt with the police before, so I'm hesitant. I'd rather handle it ourselves if possible. All right, I'll join in the search too. Let's split up and look around, Olivia asserted, attempting to redirect the conversation towards finding the thief. Just then, a young man approached Olivia. Ah, there you are. I've been looking for you, he exclaimed. I found this bag and thought you might be in trouble after leaving it behind. I'm glad I caught you. Your trip could have been ruined. He handed over my bag, bringing relief to the tense situation. Where did you find this bag? I asked him, taken aback. The lady left it on a table in the lounge over there. I tried calling out to her, but she didn't hear me and disappeared into the crowd. So I've been searching for her, he explained, leaving us stunned. She left it in the lounge. Without a second thought, the young man handed the bag to Olivia. Please be more careful. You're fortunate I found it. Someone else might have taken it. We expressed our gratitude profusely. Turning to Olivia, who stood frozen, we demanded, Mom, what's going on? How do you explain the bag being left in the lounge? Mark's voice trembled with anger. No need for explanations, Mom. You've intentionally left Madison's bag in the lounge, didn't you? And you weren't keeping an eye on any of our luggage either. She wasn't lying about any of this. It's unbelievable that you would treat Madison this way, leaving her bag in a distant lounge. You were trying to avoid the security cameras because you knew they would reveal what happened, Emma said, looking at Olivia with clear disdain. I quickly checked the bag's contents, passports, wallets, and mobile phones, all safe. We were incredibly fortunate that such a kind person found it. Relieved yet seething with anger, I turned to confront Olivia. How could you do this, Olivia? Why would you behave like that? I demanded, my frustration palpable. Olivia responded, unrepentant. Well, she threw my precious bag on the floor, and I was upset. I'm not the villain here. Who would have guessed that this shabby bag held everyone's passports? It was a moment of frustration in the lounge. I didn't leave your luggage unattended, so don't misinterpret it. Olivia defended herself defensively. That's enough. Mark interjected loudly. What do you think of Madison? I've always known how hard you've been on her since we got married. I kept hoping you'd change, but I was wrong. I failed to understand her pain. I'm sorry, Madison. Mark apologized sincerely, his words bringing tears to my eyes. Mark turned resolutely to Olivia. Mom, deliberately mishandling someone else's property is akin to theft, whether you realize it or not. Reviewing the surveillance footage will reveal what happened, he stated firmly. Olivia was visibly stunned by Mark's words. Wait, Mark, you're not seriously considering involving the police, are you? We're family, and Madison is your wife, even if only through marriage. There's no crime in a mother taking her daughter's bag, Olivia pleaded, looking at Mark with desperation. Mark's face hardened as he responded bitterly. That reasoning is absurd, Mom. Your first step should be apologizing to Madison, not trying to avoid responsibility. Using our family bond as an excuse is embarrassing for a mother. We won't report this to the police, but we're severing ties with you. Don't show your face to Madison or me again. We'll be taking a different flight home, Mark declared firmly, taking my hand in a show of support. Please, Mark, hold on. This is too sudden. I can't accept this. Give me a chance to apologize and make amends. I'm begging you, Olivia pleaded desperately, her voice tinged with remorse. Olivia clung to Mark's feet, trying to stop him. But Mark, this is disgraceful. Please stop. Emma intervened, pulling Olivia away. With tears streaming down her face, Emma and her husband escorted Olivia away, leaving Mark and me alone. Are you sure about this, Mark? Cutting ties with your mom? I asked, concerned. It's necessary. You're the most important person in my life. I should have protected you better. He replied, embracing me warmly. We managed to book a different flight home. returning to our normal lives without Olivia. Emma also decided to distance herself from her mother. We moved far away from Mark's family home, completely severing ties with Olivia. It seemed Emma had also chosen to keep her distance. 6 months after our trip to Australia, I discovered I was pregnant. Olivia would never know or meet this child. In our peaceful new town, free from Olivia's influence, we look forward to our future. My only wish is for Mark, our baby, and me to live happily together. "Please wake up," I whispered, gazing at my husband's serene face as he lay in his casket. His peaceful expression almost fooled me into thinking he was merely asleep, ready to stir at any moment. "Well, off I go," his cheerful voice echoed in my mind, bidding farewell to me and our daughter before embarking on his business trip just 2 days prior. Little did I know it would be the last time I hear his voice. His sudden departure from this world by his own hand left me in disbelief. No matter how desperately I called out to him, he remained silent, his once warm presence now as cold as ice. As I struggled to come to terms with the grim reality, something caught my eye. A solitary photograph resting on his chest. It was a family picture, but one I didn't recall placing there. Who could have placed it, and why? Intrigued and unnerved, I picked up the photo, turning it over to find a chilling message scrawled on the back. "Run away now." A shiver ran down my spine as I turned to find my mother-in-law's cold gaze fixed upon me. In that moment, I realized I had unwittingly stumbled into a nightmare from which there was no easy escape. I'm Bella, 32 years old, and my journey through life has been marked by both tragedy and love. Losing both my parents in a car accident while I was still in college left me feeling utterly alone in the world. The weight of grief seemed insurmountable. Fortunately, John, my boyfriend at the time, became my pillar of support. After graduating, we tied the knot, finding solace and happiness in each other's company. Our little family expanded with the arrival of our daughter, Hannah, who brought immeasurable joy into our lives. Our family circle extended to include my mother-in-law and brother-in-law, forming a tight-knit support system. Sadly, the passing of my father-in-law a year ago left a void in our hearts. His sudden demise, attributed to what was initially termed an illness but revealed to be a fatal heart attack, shook us all profoundly. Despite the loss, financial worries never haunted us, thanks to the prosperous business my in-laws managed. Originally, my father-in-law had envisioned his capable and compassionate younger brother taking the reins as CEO. However, fate intervened, claiming him before his plans could materialize. Consequently, the responsibility fell upon my brother-in-law, the eldest son, to lead the family's business legacy forward. Dad wanted me to take over, but I couldn't possibly do that over my older brother. "I'll support him." My husband's reverence for his brother ran deep, leading him to gracefully step aside from the CEO position. His respect for family hierarchy was unwavering. My brother-in-law, in turn, displayed a genuine kindness towards me, often engaging in friendly conversations. While our bond blossomed, my interactions with my mother-in-law were marked by a noticeable strain. Initially, my mother-in-law extended warmth towards me, even bonding over cooking sessions, expressing how much she cherished our time together. Her affectionate gestures painted a picture of familial harmony. However, with my father-in-law's passing, a frosty silence enveloped her demeanor. Both my husband and I felt the chill of her withdrawal, her once warm gaze now evading ours. Even our daughter, Hannah, accustomed to adoration as the first grandchild, faced her grandmother's icy reception, met with disapproving glances and curt responses. "She used to be such a sweet person before," my husband lamented, his disappointment palpable. Witnessing his distress, my heart ached with sympathy. "Something seems off about Mom," my husband voiced his concerns, furrowing his brows in deep contemplation. "She's glaring at me as if I'm her enemy. Could she think we're after her assets? Or maybe she's unwell?" Despite his introspection, he couldn't pinpoint a plausible explanation for her sudden change in demeanor. The shift first became apparent during my father-in-law's one-week memorial service. Exhausted from the solemn proceedings, we sought respite at her home. However, our tranquility was shattered when we awoke to find our bag of clothes missing from the room. Could it be a burglary? I pondered aloud, but the selective disappearance of our belongings cast doubt on that theory. As we scoured the house, a plume of smoke billowed from the backyard, drawing our attention. To our disbelief, we discovered our possessions ablaze, and there stood my mother-in-law. "Mom, did you do this?" we implored, seeking an explanation for her inexplicable actions. But she remained silent, her wide-eyed gaze and trembling hands betraying her fear. "Why, Mom? What have we done to deserve this hostility?" We pleaded for answers, but her lips remained sealed, leaving us grappling with uncertainty and confusion. Despite her stoic silence, John extended a hand of understanding to his mother, his voice laced with gentle reassurance. "You're not worried about us going after your assets, are you? I'm not interested in your possessions. Please believe me, mother-in-law. We only want what's best for you." However, our pleas fell on deaf ears as mother-in-law icily commanded, "Leave, both of you, and don't return." With heavy hearts, we departed, our once close bond with her fractured, reduced to mere remnants of what it once was. For the past year, we maintained a distant relationship. Our attempts at reconciliation met with resistance from mother-in-law's unwavering animosity. Then, out of the blue, a message from my brother-in-law beckoned us to the first anniversary memorial service for my father-in-law. Despite mother-in-law's continued coldness, we decided to attend, hoping for a glimpse of reconciliation. Yet her aloofness persisted, serving as a painful reminder of the chasm that now separated us. Witnessing John's contemplative expression amid the familial discord, I couldn't help but wonder about the thoughts brewing in his mind. "What's on your mind, John? Are you concerned about your mother?" I inquired softly, sensing the weight of his thoughts. With a gentle touch, John reassured me, "Don't worry, Bella. If there's anything troubling you, just let me know." His tender gesture, brushing away my worries, brought a sense of calm to my troubled heart. His comforting presence was a balm to my anxieties. A month passed, filled with the familiar routines of family life. As John prepared for another business trip, his cheerful demeanor lifted our spirits. However, his sudden return caught me off guard. With a small charm in hand, he bestowed upon me a gesture of protection. His smile, warm and reassuring, filled me with gratitude for the love we shared. Yet the tranquility was shattered by a harrowing turn of events. The next day brought the shocking news of John's untimely death. His lifeless body was discovered in his car on a remote mountain road near my parents' home in Colorado. The circumstances surrounding his demise puzzled and devastated me. Contrary to his claims of a business trip, there were no scheduled engagements. Instead, his final moments were marked by a heart-wrenching call to my brother-in-law, confessing unbearable pain and a desire to end his suffering. The revelation left me reeling with guilt and confusion. I blamed myself for failing to recognize his anguish, grappling with unanswered questions and an overwhelming sense of loss. Beside his lifeless form, I felt my strength waning, but my brother-in-law's steadfast support steadied me in the face of despair. "Stay," he urged, his presence a beacon of solace in the darkness of grief. "Bella, stay strong." My brother-in-law's voice wavered with emotion, mirroring the turmoil in my own heart. I wish I had understood John's pain better. Why did this happen? The weight of sorrow bore down on me, compounded by Hannah's tears as she clung to me for solace. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law's stoic glare offered no comfort, her expression devoid of tears. Amidst our collective grief, my brother-in-law and John's colleagues took charge of the funeral arrangements, their somber efficiency a stark contrast to the overwhelming emotions engulfing me. "Please wake up," I whispered to John on the day of his funeral, his serene visage in the casket belying the finality of his passing. It felt as though he could stir from slumber at any moment, if only I called out to him. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I held on him tightly, seeking refuge in his familiar presence. In the midst of my sorrow, a glimmer of curiosity stirred within me as I noticed a lone photograph resting on John's chest. Who had placed it there, and what significance did it hold in this moment of profound loss? Intrigued, I lifted the photograph, only to find John's face marred by ruthless slashes from a cutter. My heart quickened as I read the ominous message scrawled on the back. "Run away now." Questions swirled in my mind. Who was the intended recipient of this chilling warning? As a shiver ran down my spine, I turned to find my mother-in-law's icy stare fixed upon me, her gaze piercing through me with unnerving intensity. Could she be involved? The tension thickened as she hastily looked away upon meeting my gaze, sparking a surge of suspicion within me. Discreetly, I slipped the photograph into the pocket of my dress, determined to unravel the mystery. In the aftermath of the funeral, amidst the quietude that followed, my thoughts kept returning to the cryptic message on the photograph. Though the sender remained elusive, the initials hinted at a possible connection. The only cess I could think of was Scarlett, my mother-in-law. Doubts gnawed at me, challenging the narrative of John's untimely demise. Desperate for answers, I resolved to confront my mother-in-law, bracing myself for the confrontation ahead. As I stepped into her home, my mother-in-law's demeanor remained as frosty as ever. With my brother-in-law absent at work, it was just the two of us in the sullen silence. "What brings you here all of a sudden?" she inquired, her tone guarded. "I was hoping to uncover some insights into John's passing. Perhaps there's a clue here in his childhood home," I replied, my words tinged with uncertainty. Lacking the courage to confront her directly, I found myself fabricating a reason for my visit. Searching for a distraction, my gaze wandered to the towering bookshelf dominating the living room. A testament to the family's love for literature, it housed not only novels but also encyclopedias and dictionaries. Among them, I spotted a few volumes from John's student days, evoking a wave of nostalgia. Curiosity getting the better of me, I reached for a couple of books, each adorned with a stamped initial indicating ownership. Beside John's J was a small, endearing image of a cuddling cat. The sight warmed my heart, a reminder of his gentle nature that always brought a smile to my face. As I perused the books, I couldn't shake off the palpable weight of my mother-in-law's gaze boring into my back. Amidst the sea of familiar titles, one book stood out, still clad in its cover. As I gingerly opened it, I discovered a tome on poisonous plants, its pages adorned with numerous post-it notes. My heart skipped a beat as I stumbled upon a note detailing the very poison that claimed my husband's life. The book bore a stamp of ownership, a damning piece of evidence that left me reeling. Summoning all my courage, I turned to my mother-in-law, brandishing the book before her. Her stoic facade crumbled as tears streamed down her face. "I'm the one responsible. Please forgive me," she choked out amidst sobs. The revelation sent shockwaves through me, but there was no time for hesitation. "We need to inform the authorities," I insisted, my voice trembling with urgency. With a heavy heart, I relayed the truth to the police. As I grappled with the gravity of the situation, my brother-in-law arrived home, oblivious to the turmoil that had unfolded. Concern etched upon his features, he questioned the somber atmosphere, his eyes darting between me and my tearful mother-in-law. "What's happened? Why is Bella here? Please tell me," he implored, his voice laced with apprehension. I wanted to talk to my mother-in-law about my husband," I stammered, my words faltering as I struggled to find the right way to broach the subject. Understanding washed over my brother-in-law's face as he listened. "Losing him must have been incredibly difficult for you. Are you feeling any better now, Bella?" he inquired gently, his concern palpable. Unable to meet his gaze, I hesitated, grappling with the weight of unspoken truths. Before I could utter a word, my brother-in-law's unexpected confession caught me off guard. "I know this isn't the time, but I've always harbored feelings for you, Bella. And Hannah, she's just so precious to me. Would you ever consider giving us a chance, starting anew?" His words hung in the air, surprising me with their sincerity. I never imagined my brother-in-law harboring such feelings. "Thank you, but I can't even fathom such thoughts right now," I replied, my voice tinged with gratitude and regret. Understanding flickered in his eyes as he accepted my response. Awkwardly scratching his head, he took the photograph from my outstretched hand. "I'm sorry," he murmured, his gaze falling upon the image of my husband's battered face and the ominous message scrawled on its reverse. As the reality of the photograph's contents sank in, my brother-in-law's complexion paled, a gasp escaping his lips. This was inside John's coffin. Who could have done such a thing? His shock mirrored my own as we grappled with the sinister implications of the discovery. "It's possible that someone at the funeral knows what happened to John," I mused aloud, the pieces of the puzzle slowly coming together in my mind. "Wait a moment. John took his own life, so there's no perpetrator to speak of," I reasoned, trying to quell the rising unease. However, my brother-in-law appeared perplexed, his agitation palpable as he shifted uneasily. But in my dreams, John's voice echoes, accusing someone of betrayal and expressing hatred. I divulged, watching as his eyes widened in shock, his features contorting with alarm as if confronted with a horrifying revelation. "And I found this," I continued, retrieving the damning evidence from the living room bookshelf. As I handed him the book on poisonous plants with incriminating notes, his expression morphed into one of profound concern, realizing the gravity of the situation. I presented the book on poisonous plants that I had discovered earlier, pointing out the bookplate bearing my brother-in-law's name, indicated by the stamped letter K. "What are you insinuating? Are you suggesting that I murdered my own brother?" my brother-in-law demanded, his voice tinged with disbelief. Instead of answering, I pressed on with my revelation. Beside me, my mother-in-law remained silent, her gaze fixed on the unfolding drama. "And there's more," I declared, retrieving the charm my husband had given me. Carefully, I extracted a letter concealed within. Its contents sent shockwaves through the room. "My brother killed our father with a poisonous plant." Amidst the somber atmosphere of my husband's funeral, I clung to the charm he had gifted me, finding solace in its tangible reminder of his love. Yes, I held it. A faint suspicion nudged at my consciousness. Could there be something hidden within? From the outer covering, "That's hardly substantial evidence," my brother-in-law scoffed dismissively as I retrieved a small object concealed within the charm. Undeterred, I produced my phone and played a video that revealed a damning conversation between my husband and my brother-in-law. In the footage, my brother-in-law confessed to intentionally ending his father's life. He assured my husband that he harbored no ill intent toward our family and vowed to turn himself in to the authorities. It was a shocking revelation that left me reeling with a mixture of regret and fury. My husband, in an act of foresight, had clandestinely recorded the conversation by setting up a camera in their parents' house, a fact detailed in the accompanying letter. As I absorbed the gravity of the situation, my heart burned with a potent blend of emotions. "You admitted your crime to my husband, then urged him to turn you in, only to take his life with the same poisonous plant, didn't you?" I confronted my brother-in-law, the weight of betrayal heavy in my voice. "John trusted you until the very end. Why would you commit such a heinous act?" As I pressed him for answers, my brother-in-law's demeanor shifted, his once gentle countenance contorting into a terrifying visage as he clicked his tongue in frustration, his eyes flashing with anger. In that tense moment, my mother-in-law's anguish erupted into tears, her sobs filling the room. "Why? How could you do something so cruel?" she cried out, her confession echoing the painful truth of her complicity. It dawned on me then, the origins of this tragedy rooted in the bond between the brothers. Despite their closeness in childhood, envy and resentment had poisoned my brother-in-law's heart over time, leading to a series of petty pranks aimed at undermining his talented younger sibling John. My in-laws had always maintained strict discipline with my brother-in-law, aware of his penchant for mischief. Despite this, John never harbored any resentment towards his brother, instead choosing to admire and support him. This unwavering loyalty only deepened my mother-in-law's sense of dismay. Following my father-in-law's sudden demise while tidying the bookshelf, my mother-in-law stumbled upon a book detailing poisonous plants. Despite the diagnosis of a heart attack, John had never displayed any prior heart issues during his medical checkups, leaving me with a lingering sense of unease. It was then that I noticed a bookmark nestled within the book, detailing the exact symptoms my husband had experienced before his passing, a revelation that sent shockwaves through me. Even more alarming was my brother-in-law's intense fascination with the book on poisonous plants, a detail that did not escape my notice. To add to the growing list of unsettling discoveries, my mother-in-law unearthed a photograph of John's disfigured face hidden within the pages of the book, further deepening the mystery surrounding his untimely demise. Despite her suspicions, my mother-in-law hesitated to confront my brother-in-law without concrete evidence, knowing he would likely deny any wrongdoing. At my father-in-law's memorial service, during our visit to the family home, my mother-in-law was visibly shaken to discover my brother-in-law burning our belongings. Fearing for our safety, she chose to distance herself from us, her demeanor growing cold and distant. In a moment of desperation, she confided in me, her voice strained with anguish as she explained her actions. Her face etched with worry lines, I struggled to find the right words to comfort her. Even after we stopped visiting, she recounted, my brother-in-law's behavior grew increasingly ominous. He muttered to himself, "I have to do something about John," leaving me deeply concerned. I recounted how I had tried to warn my husband at his first memorial, using the photo phone in the book about poisonous plants as a covert means of communication. I had also whispered to John about the possibility that his brother Ken may have been responsible for their father's death. Unfortunately, it seemed our attempt to warn my husband had backfired. If he hadn't been aware, he might not have confronted my brother-in-law. and perhaps things wouldn't have escalated to this extent. My mother and I were overwhelmed with regret, each of us blaming ourselves for the unfolding tragedy. I struggled to find the right words to respond to her anguish. "It's all because our father refused to let me take over the company," my brother-in-law interjected bitterly, deflecting blame onto our deceased father. "But John always stood up for you, insisting that he couldn't become president by sidelining you." I couldn't contain my frustration. As if that matters. Both our father and John loved you. There was no need for you to resort to such drastic measures. "What's the point now?" I exclaimed, my voice tinged with a mixture of anger and despair. Defiantly, my brother-in-law dismissed our accusations with a chilling expression. "Blame the parents who favored my younger brother and the facade of the good son John. It's all your fault," he retorted, his words sending shivers down my spine. "You've taken away my beloved husband. I'll never forgive you." I seethed, my anger boiling over at my brother-in-law's callous actions. "Shut up. If you hadn't interfered, you could have been my wife," he spat back venomously, his words dripping with malice. Suddenly, he lunged at me with a knife he had concealed, the glint of metal sending the chill down my spine. Panicked, I screamed for help and attempted to flee, but he was relentless, swiftly closing the distance between us. With nowhere left to run, I found myself cornered, facing the sharp edge of the blade. Instinctively, I shut my eyes, racing for the worst. Then, a resounding thud echoed through the room as someone intervened to shield me from harm. To my astonishment, it was my mother-in-law. "Mother-in-law, are you hurt?" I gasped, seeing her grimace as blood trickled from her injured arm. "Ken, please stop this madness. Turn yourself in," she pleaded, her voice trembling with urgency. "Shut up, both of you. You're the ones who need to disappear," my brother-in-law snarled, his rage unabated. "Why would you go to such lengths, especially now that you've achieved your dream of becoming CEO?" I implored, struggling to understand his motives amidst the chaos. "I need money," my brother-in-law confessed, his desperation palpable. Despite assuming control of the company, he lacked the business acumen to manage it, burdening himself with mounting debts within a year. In a desperate bid to alleviate his financial woes, he resorted to taking out a hefty life insurance policy on my husband, his younger brother. It's amusing, really. John believed my lies so easily, even when I pretended to confess, my brother-in-law chuckled bitterly, his laughter tinged with malice. I recoiled in disgust at his callous demeanor, but even in his deceit, he remained cautious, ensuring that John didn't consume the drink he had offered. "A toast to our farewell," he sneered, his suspicions of poisonous herbs evident. Yet he did shake John's hand, unwittingly transferring traces of the lethal substance. John had a habit of licking his fingers, you know? So it's no surprise the poison began to take effect during the car ride home, my brother-in-law boasted, his voice filled with a twisted sense of triumph as he brandished a knife before us. "Despite everything, my husband still wanted to save you. Why couldn't you understand his compassion?" I exclaimed, frustration seeping into my voice. "Blame my parents for favoring John over me," my brother-in-law retorted defiantly, deflecting responsibility onto others. As tension reached its peak, the arrival of the police brought an end to the harrowing ordeal. Despite their intervention, my brother-in-law continued to struggle until the very end. My brother-in-law's desperate pleas fell on deaf ears as he gasped and finally succumbed to the authorities, his tumultuous outbursts quelled. Thankfully, my mother-in-law's injury proved to be minor, and she was quickly on the path to recovery. As my brother-in-law was escorted away by the police, it became clear that he harbored no remorse for his actions, leaving little doubt that he would face a lengthy sentence behind bars. With him out of our lives, I found solace in the comfort of my mother-in-law's embrace. Returning to her former self, my mother-in-law showered affection upon my daughter Hannah and me. Together, we forged a sense of familial harmony, finding happiness in each other's company. And as I revisited the letter concealed within the charm my husband had given me, its heartfelt message served as a poignant reminder of his enduring love. "Bella, you are my treasure. I love you always." Embracing my husband's enduring affection, I resolved to carry on, finding strength in his unwavering love and the bond shared between us.